We want to bring in right now Ron Christie, former special assistant to President George W. Bush. Ron, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
So 3 Republican senators wrote a letter to President Obama criticizing him on weighing in on this British vote. We know that back in April, the president was very firm. He said that he preferred the UK remain in the EU. Should the president have voiced his opinion?
No, he shouldn't have. And I think, Maria, good morning, first of all. It was a mistake for the president to come out and say, if Britain does not stay in the EU, they're going to go back at the queue. Why would you say that to our closest ally?
Yeah.
Why would you say that to the closest relationship that we have of all the things that are going on in the world? The president should not have weighed in this. He shouldn't have said anything about this. And now a lot of people in the UK, my friends, a lot of folks who worked for Tony Blair, a lot of folks who work for Gordon Brown are saying, why is the United States president weighing in on our politics when this is our issue?
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, there are so many ramifications to the potential exit, but the UK has 2 years to actually redo these trade deals. But isn't that one of the issues, Dagan? We're going to speak with Kay Swinburne coming up, who's a member of the European Parliament, who obviously wants the country to stay within the EU. But there are worries that there will be outflows.
And rightfully so. And the irony is, with the president making that statement to the people of Britain, he actually has had probably the opposite effect on the way people feel. Because you push people to their corners by a foreign leader coming in and saying, this is what you should do. And they're like, okay, that's exactly what we're not going to do. Yeah. And it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the national pride in Britain and how they've really felt about the continent, not just in the last 40 years, but really the last 100 years.
Also, I think that one of the biggest issues is it shows how out of touch he is, because they wouldn't go back to the end of the queue, right? I mean, so when he goes over and says that, he's fundamentally wrong, actually. Yep. And when we're talking about trade, Britain and the EU, all the members of the EU are part of the WTO, which dictates the rules of engagement when it comes to actually goods and trade. Now, they will get hit on the services side, but there are 2 years to actually figure this situation out. And it's really an immigration issue and not a trade issue that they're focusing on.
No, that's the important factor that we need to look at. It's an immigration issue. A lot of folks in Britain are saying, do we really want to have thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions potentially, people coming into our country? It's our sovereignty. How do we make sure that we can maintain the sovereignty of our borders at the same time to be able to trade with our folks in the EU?
Right, because they had nothing to do with all of these open borders.
That's right.
In Europe. Let me shift to domestic policy, because Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump have been trading barbs, we know that, over the U.S. economy. Listen to this. I'd like to get your reaction.
He has no ideas how to strengthen Medicare or expand Social Security. In fact, his tax plan would endanger both. He has no real strategy for creating jobs, just a string of empty promises. But then maybe we shouldn't expect better from someone whose most famous words are, "You're fired."
Her record is terrible. And she's crooked Hillary. Let's face it, she's crooked Hillary. She always has been, and nothing's going to change.
What's your take on this back and forth? Who is better for the economy, Ron?
Maria, what's her rationale for her candidacy? Honestly.
Right.
She wants to win. She wants to be in power. She wants to be in the White House. But what are her policies? What does she put forth? What does she put on the table? Nothing. This is going to be the third term of the Obama administration. We're $19 trillion in debt. We have no idea, with this administration currently in power and the presumptive Hillary Clinton candidacy, of how are they going to turn things around.
Yeah. Yesterday, Hillary delivered what she called an economic speech. Did you hear anything in that speech, Kimberly, that strikes you to speak to what Ron's asking?
No, because a lot of it was mostly about Donald Trump. And she is actually clever this way, in that, as we were just hearing, she doesn't want to talk about what would essentially be a third term of Barack Obama, and she doesn't have many policies that are going to do anything to change around the economy. So her entire strategy, and she's going to do this on national security, and she's going to do this on domestic policy, is all going to be Donald Trump would be terrible, terrible for the country, and she wants the entire election to be about him. Now, good for her so far, it largely has been.
You've seen her fault, especially when she was in Kentucky talking to the coal miners, talking about policies, because it makes her even more unrelatable, and they've been going after, trying to kill King Coal, right? So I think that's part of the issue. She's trying to shy away from the policies, because when she does it, she just puts her foot in her mouth, and it doesn't come across well.
And she really, because she's going to give a speech, which is today, about her policies, right? And this is a political, a way to go after him. She's trying to define him before he can define himself, which is kind of standard political strategy, first and foremost. But secondly, her two crutches that she's carrying around with her are infrastructure spending, which is laughable. When asked, what are you going to do differently? Star Jones said yesterday, well, she's going to spend a lot on infrastructure. I'm like, the president has used the word infrastructure in every single policy speech that he's ever given in the last 7.5 years. And so you're going to take $19 trillion and borrow more money to put it into roads? That's your economic strategy.
But she's also talked about raising taxes on the highest earners and the Buffett rule. Is that going to further strangle small business and put a cap on their hiring plans?
Well, of course it is. I mean, look, what the administration needs to be doing right now is getting out of the way of those folks who are providing jobs. Small business community. What are we doing instead? We're talking about the Department of Labor. We're talking about the fiduciary rule. We're talking about all sorts of new regulations. Government needs to get out of the way, Maria, and instead allow people to be entrepreneurial, to be, frankly, innovative. And this administration and a potential Clinton administration, no chance.
And she wants to build on Obamacare. Isn't Obamacare one of the key reasons that employers are keeping, their headcount below 50?
She wants to not only preserve Social Security and Medicare, which are going broke in 14 to 18 years, but she wants to expand them. That she's gone that far left. She criticizes businesses indirectly, like Uber, which has been a lifesaver for people who have lost their jobs under the Obama administration, as the gig economy, that they don't have enough employees don't have enough protections. So again, it's government versus private business. That's the choice. Not only she believes that the government is a savior for all, and I don't think anybody out there believes that at this point.
And isn't it interesting how left the whole party has gone? After Hillary and Elizabeth Warren and Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders.
Look at her on energy, for instance. I mean, she has entirely adopted the position of generally leave it in the ground. I mean, and this is a time in which our energy resources are one of the best things that we have going for us.
It's a great point.
And what strikes me, when I worked in Capitol Hill in the 90s, John Kasich worked with Bill Clinton and found a way of how can we solve up Medicare? How can we find a way to deal with entitlements?
These
folks don't want to talk about this at all anymore. It's all expanding the entitlement program all the time right now.
So it's Barack Obama's economy, not Bill Clinton's economy.
That's exactly right.
No, it's more than Barack Obama's economy. To the left.
All the way to the left.
Well, it's because you didn't build that.
Right?
Well, there's that as well. Ron Christie, so nice to have you on the program.
Very good to see you.
Come back soon.